Not only was he forced to watch his mother die, but he was threatened by his stepfather to keep his mouth shut. Not allowed to call 911, not allowed to tell me the truth about what went on. He was intimidated into lying to the police and then sent away. He was begging to call for help for his mother and being told no.
We just heard a small soundbite of the deceased mother talking about the events that led up to her daughter's passing. We are going to unpack it with all the details at the end. With that, let's jump in.
I see right there, and that was just packet.
Yes, sure. Good morning, Mr. Lomax.
Good morning.
My name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, May 31st, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. Following board members are present this morning, and by stating their names on the record, certified they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, Deborah Smith Palmieri.
Good morning, I'm Carolyn Burkade.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
Good morning.
Also present is Office of Victim Service Advocate Hamlet Williams. Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
Michael A. Lomax, 429970.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Michael Lomax, 429970. He is serving a sentence of 15 years executed, suspended after 7 years, followed by 5 years probation for sale of hallucinogen and or narcotic and risk of injury. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of January 31st, 2023. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed tier 2 voices and he works as the janitor. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Lomax, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I have followed all my rules and regulations towards my OEP. I have no tickets. I have basically can say that I'm sorry about the incident that happened on hand towards my case. I'm sorry for my family members that got hurt within my case. Within my programs, I learned how to stay away from drugs. I learned how to have more thoughts, more abilities to do better towards my drug habits and my convictions. If I do need extra help, I would go to my probation officer, or I would find resources to help me further go through with my drug abuse situation.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lomax?
No.
All right. Well, thank you. This is a rehearing for you today, right? You were before the board about a year ago?
Yes.
Okay. And just so you know, we do have victim input today.
Yes.
So when we're done with our questionings, we will be hearing from the victims.
Okay.
I'm going to begin with the questioning this morning.
Okay.
So I reviewed the audio hearing from May 2023, and I did hear that you understood that you needed to do some more work, right? You needed to do some more to address your substance abuse problem. Yes. And in review of your file and your interview with the parole officer, looks like you've completed the tier 2 program.
Yes.
All right. Tell me what you thought about that program?
The tier 2 program was very interesting to me because there was a lot of movies that was shown towards people getting abused, people using drugs and alcohol. It was also people changing their lives, getting better careers towards what they need to do towards the further they prolongings towards the education, basically stop using drugs. It was a lot of things that I had watched on episodes also was retaining to drugs was drugs basically change people's lives, hurt them, put people through a lot of pain and suffering, hurt people, family members, which I consider was in my case.
Okay. What did you learn about yourself and your own substance abuse?
It didn't really help me at all. I hurt a lot of people. I lost my wife. I hurt my stepson, my stepdaughter, my mother-in-law, other family members in my family. It basically taught me a lesson to just leave drugs and alcohol alone because it never really helped me from the beginning. It just made me a worse person than I thought I could ever say I would want to be.
Okay, let me ask you. So you learned that you need to leave drugs and alcohol alone.
Yes.
All right, that's a very basic statement, especially for somebody that's in your position. Tell me how you plan to do that.
Go out, go to meetings. I'm going to follow the rules and regulations towards my probation or get further resources towards getting more help, go to counseling,
Okay.
stuff of that nature.
Have you done that in the past, gone to counseling or attended any treatment programs in the community?
Treatment programs, no. Counseling, yes.
Okay, why do you think it would be different this time?
Why would I think it would be different this time is because this time I'm gonna be more focused. I'm not under drug influence, alcohol influence. So I think I will have a better chance of following what I need to do on a more focused level.
But, your involvement with drugs resulted in the death of somebody.
Yes.
It really doesn't get much worse than that in terms of when people talk about hitting the bottom. Do you see how drugs played a role in your decision making?
Yes. I lost a very valuable person in my life, which was my wife. I hit rock bottom after everything was said and done. It really hurt me. Throughout my whole incarceration, I had to sit and face reality that she will never be coming back. I had to sit and face reality that the things I have did towards her situation really hurt me a lot, hurt my family a lot, hurt her family a lot. I really am sorry that this whole situation took place. I wish I could look back on time and take it away, but unfortunately I can't. And I have to live with this for the rest of my life.
How do you make amends going forward?
Stay away from drugs. Try to mend things with my family, my wife's family. Go to counseling, do my meetings. Stay away from everybody that's abusing drugs or on drugs.
What, other than the Tier 2 program, and I know you took the Voices program, you've been working, what else have you done to prepare yourself to be in the community and live a drug-free, alcohol-free life?
I've been doing podcasts on the tablet, the 12 steps program that they have on there. I've been reading, doing researches. I've been studying my homeworks and pamphlets that I have got from the Tier 2 and the Voices program.
All right, so tell me, what is your relapse prevention plan, Manat? I know I asked it in a different way earlier, but I'm not sure you were very clear about it.
I mean, it's just multiple things throughout this whole case that I'm still repenting and suffering for. And I know I need to get help for my situation, and I'm not going to ever give up to try to get help to fix my situation.
So far, what I've heard from you is that, you know, you can never use drugs and alcohol again, and that you're going to go to counseling in the community, and
Yes.
that you have worked on the tablet to read about the 12-step program. Have you
Yes,
ever
we have.
participated in anything like that before in the community?
No.
And
I
why
will be
is that?
willing to do it though. I never really thought I needed it until after my case had happened. And due to the fact that I was on drugs and alcohol, I definitely know I do need help. I do need to do more research. I do need to talk to people that's in a 12-step program or any program to have further information to help me benefit towards staying away from the bad things in life that I don't need to be around, which was the drugs and alcohol.
Okay. And your plan to be in the community is what? You propose to live with a friend. I don't think we've been able to verify that. So you'd be looking at going to a halfway house to get started. And you haven't worked since 2001, but you mentioned working for a cleaning business.
One of my friends owns a cleaning business and he offered me a part-time job. So I had figured if I can go back to working, I will be more than happy to. Due to the fact of my disability towards my back injuries that I have, I'm not sure if Social Security will let me. So I will have to talk to them first before I actually make that decision to try to go back to work.
Okay. And if you're not working, what's your plan to occupy yourself?
Go to meetings, go to counseling, check in with my probation officer, my parole officer, see what other stipulations that I have to follow towards my regulations towards what he or she wants me to do.
You have no prior criminal history.
No.
It's your first time in jail.
Yes.
You took the tier 2 program. I'm a little troubled that you don't really feel like you benefited much from that.
I benefited, but I still can actually say I need help. I'm not going to never say or deny that I don't need help. This was a very critical situation for me to ever be in as a first time experiencing this fact on hand of what happened to my wife.
You also took the Voices program.
Yes.
Tell me how that maybe has given you a way to think differently about the situation, provided you a little insight.
Voices was basically dictation towards a lot of things that happen in life, towards people getting victimized, hurt, car accidents, people on drugs. The videos we watched was very disturbing. People getting their head busted. It was a critical situation of people getting raped.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for a quick second because I feel like we're not really getting to what the program is about. The purpose of Voices is really to try and help an individual appreciate a little bit more the role of the victim or how the victim is impacted by the crime. And it could be did you glean anything like that from the program?
Yes, I did.
Okay, tell me about that then.
Okay, in my situation, I basically learned that being as my white family was the victims, it was a very traumatic situation. I never had the chance to talk to my mother-in-law after the situation towards trying to state that I was sorry about the incident. My stepson, I never really had a chance to really talk to him either. My stepdaughter, neither. police questioned me. A lot of things took places. I had a chance to get her ashes cremate. I mean, I had a chance to cremate her before I came in. Right after that, they locked me up.
So what do you think is the impact on your wife's family and her son? What do you think is the impact?
They are very, very upset with me. I should have tried to get my wife help. I didn't. I was on drugs. She was on drugs. It's like we just didn't even try to talk to the family, anything to try to get me help. I felt helpless. I felt useless.
Well, that's, you use the word I a lot. And I'm really was looking more for you to appreciate the long-term impact of this crime and your response to the overdose that resulted in a death, and how that affected the young person that was there witnessing it, and the family that are now without their daughter, their mother, for the rest of their life. I mean, at some point, you're getting out of jail. So I do understand that it was your wife and there is some, some grief there.
Yes.
However, I was really hoping that you might have gotten a better understanding of how this affected your wife's family. Specifically, I'm thinking her son.
I'm pretty sure he's very upset. He's very hurt. He didn't really have a foreclosure.
All right, Mr. Lomax, thank you. Ms. Chance?
Mr. Lomax, here to, what you learned. And you said it didn't help you at all, that you found it interesting. But all the things that you said after that is really a result of what you learned in Cure 2. Yet you said it didn't help you at all. I'm a little confused about that.
Let me rephrase it. It did help me. So I didn't really mean to say that it didn't help me. It helped me benefit more to have a better understanding of what I was going to the program for.
I know you said it taught you to leave drugs and alcohol around, which is what it's an educational type program. And they do give very good insights and examples to what drugs does to people. I'm not sure if you understood what they were saying. You talked about how painful the death of your wife was to you and the entire family. And then, when you were asked about voices, you talked about it pointed out people being victimized, but it was a personal impact to you because you bought drugs and it had a very, very negative impact on your wife because it ultimately cost her life. So that's a huge impact to you and your family.
Yes, ma'am.
So, from where I am, I thought those two programs should have been so helpful to you. You would have had a really good release plan based on a personal impact to you. But you talked about other people. But you're right in there with how it impacted both you and your family. And I sure hope that going forward, you get a little better understanding of those two programs. Okay. I don't have anything else, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
this page?
No questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. So, Mr. Lomax, I just want to follow up. So when you were interviewed by the parole officer, you said I knew I needed extra help and I didn't take it personally. I learned how to look at things differently. And if I feel myself beginning to relapse, I'll call my probation officer. What do you think will be your signs of relapse?
It can lead into multiple issues. I can go into a program.
No. What tell me, that's what you'll do if you feel like you're relapsing. What have you identified as relapse triggers?
Going back on drugs and alcohol.
Well, that's already that's a relapse. What do you think would lead up to a relapse?
Being around people that's using drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
Being around the wrong people at the wrong time. Being in areas where people are abusing drugs.
Right. And have you thought about what you'll do if you find yourself in those situations?
Get away from them as soon as possible.
Have you thought about how you plan ahead to avoid all of that?
Stay away from anybody that I know that's using drugs. And if I know they are using drugs, definitely I just won't be around them.
And you said your goal is to get your life together. What does that mean, to get your life together?
Well, due to the fact that I was abusing drugs and alcohol, stay away from drugs and alcohol, spend more time with my family, go to programs, do more research to benefit better towards getting my goals achieved.
Okay. How old are you, Mr. Lomax?
50.
50?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We are now going to hear from the Office of Victim Services.
Okay.
Ms. Hamlet Williams?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I do have the mother of the victim who would like to address the panel today. One moment. Okay, if you can lower that device just a little bit more, I can hear something in the background.
Better?
No, I think I can still hear it.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Better?
Yes. You may begin with your statement.
Again, I'm here to speak against the release of Michael Lomax. Once I had a daughter, big brown eyes, long, beautiful curly hair, skin the color of light-colored coffee, and let us not forget the mother of 2 beautiful children. I want to talk about what her loss has done to the life of her son. It's called depression, complex PTSD, and severe anxiety. My grandson has been in therapy since the loss of his mother. Not only was he forced to watch his mother die, but he was threatened by his stepfather to keep his mouth shut. Not allowed to call 911, not allowed to tell me the truth about what went on. He was intimidated into lying to the police and then sent away. He was begging to call for help for his mother and being told no. Why? Why? Because the only thing that mattered to him was his own safety. He did not wish to suffer the result of his own actions. So he called his dealer instead of 911 and stood there while my daughter, Savion's mother, died at his feet. No length of time in jail could make up for his blatant disregard for her life. There is no way he can ever redeem himself. in the eyes of humanity. He will forever be a waste of human life. It's just too bad it took her death for people to see him for what he is, a waste and a murderer. We will forever be without her, suffer night terrors, be on medication just for what his actions have done to our life. I firmly believe that he 100% should serve all the time that the judge has handed down to him and not be allowed early release. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your statement. Please continue to view. Thank you, panel.
Thank you to the victim's mother. We appreciate her coming forward. We know this is the second time she's had to do that. And we appreciate her doing that for us and for her daughter. Mr. Lomax, we are now going to deliberate about your case, and then we'll give you our decision. So I know this is a rehear for Mr. Lomax, and when I reviewed the file, at a glance, he did all that the prior panel had asked him to do. He took the Tier 2 program, he took voices, he's maintained a job. He has continued to not have any disciplinary difficulties at the facility. He is 50 years old, and I do appreciate that he has no criminal history. Although I am struggling to get by that Mr. Lomax doesn't appear to have benefited very much from either one of the programs that he's taken, from the Tier 2 program or the Voices program. I don't know if we appreciate his honesty or if he just doesn't have the insight to understand his own addiction. And, based on what we've heard today, I'm not finding him suitable for parole. Certainly the victim's impact statement was, impactful. I was looking for a different word to not repeat that, but it was hard to not understand the harm that Mr. Lomax has caused. And it wasn't accidental. So, I'm struggling to find him suitable for parole today, but I'm willing to hear what my colleagues have to say. Ms. Chance?
So, Madam Chair, I have the same concern as you do. And I was just very disappointed that, he took the 2 programs that was of great benefit to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of minimized the program, saying things like Tier 2 was interesting, it did not help him at all. And then, when he was pressed, he said it really taught him to leave drugs and alcohol alone. And then, he focused on the death of his wife and the effects of his family, but still not connecting the fact that he was using, he went and bought drugs, he gave it to her when she needed help, based on, what I read, he was concerned for himself. Then when he was asked about the voices, he said it clearly pointed out people being victimized, but not what he did, the effect that it had on his wife and her family. And I was just very concerned about that. His education had a drugstore of 3. I don't remember.
He does have a 3.
Yeah, So I wondered, the same as you do, whether he was able to, you know, his level of understanding was not there.
It was disappointing.
Yes, very.
It was disappointing. And it's disappointing that, you know, he doesn't, other than reviewing his tablet, doesn't appear to have made much effort to kind of figure out how he would manage things.
Yeah, his
More
release plan was
specifically.
weak.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear from Mrs. Page, because she was on the previous panel and may offer a little bit more insights than I gained from him today.
Agreed. Ms. Page?
Well, unfortunately, I don't really remember what transpired at Mr. Lomax's. That was a year ago. However, I do understand that your concerns. I'll just say that I do understand that he really didn't present well today. I don't remember him presenting well previously. But I honestly do think that this offense has been traumatic for everyone involved. And I do not think that that excludes Mr. Lomax. I think that he acknowledges that he made poor decisions. And that, you know, he lost out. Like he lost too, you know. He has no one out there in the community aside from a brother and sister. He lost his wife, he lost his stepson, and it sounds like his mother-in-law as well. And I understand that their loss was very significant as well. But, you know, I honestly think that Mr. Lomax would benefit from some parole supervision, and perhaps they will help him gain a better understanding of what it is that he has done. And I mean, let's be honest, he knew going into that Tier 2 program that he needs to leave drugs alone. If he didn't learn a lesson then.
That's very true. I mean, he said, I listened to the last hearing.
Yeah.
He understood he had a drug problem.
Right.
You know, it's just, and he does acknowledge that he needs counseling when he leaves prison. And he probably needs grief counseling as well.
Right.
On top of everything else.
Yes. And he did identify that as needing counseling, because I read that he said
that a million times.
Yeah, right. So that's pretty important. The consistent thing that he kept saying, excuse me, Madam Chair, was that he knows that he needed to stay away from drugs and alcohol. Right. But the more he's talking about it more, I'm thinking it will give him, you know, a different perspective into, you know, the seriousness of what happened and what he did. So,
agreed. I think my other concern, I'm finished, is, you know, he is a drug score 3. I'm not quite sure what else he'll receive at the facility in terms of programming.
Yeah, but Madam Chair, if I may interject, he hasn't received any disciplinary infractions for use since he's been in.
Sure.
So his institutional behavior shows that he's capable of doing it. I understand it's a controlled environment, but we all know that there are drugs in those facilities.
Yeah.
So, and he hasn't received any disciplinary infractions for that. You know, he rates out low, and he did what we asked of him to do. So I don't normally advocate for, you know, offenders. I absolutely understand where the mother is coming from and the pain that she has experienced, and nothing will ever take away that pain. I just couldn't even imagine being her shoes. However, I think that Mr. Lomax will benefit from parole supervision prior to starting his probation.
yeah. You know, this having granted only from the perspective that there's nothing more for him to do there. And I do agree with, what you said, Mrs. Page, that giving him the opportunity on parole may serve him better. And so I am so sorry to hear how the victim's mother is feeling, because no mother wants to bury their child. So I understand, exactly what she's saying. I appreciate the input from her and the impact of the family. But if we want Mr. Lomax to not do this anymore, we have to provide him with some opportunity to address some of his personal issues that he hasn't taken care of.
Yeah, I'm smart to acknowledge that he doesn't really have anyone out in his community. So if he hurts anyone else, it's gonna be himself. Yeah, that's it.
I had Mr. Lomax granted coming in. I was just very disappointed that there wasn't a little bit more depth to his understanding of the programs.
I can,
So I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Sounds like halfway house and no
Co-defendant.
and victims, correct? Anything else?
mental health evaluation treatment.
Okay. All right, so in the matter of Michael Lomax, inmate number 429970, I make a motion to grant parole on or after May 31st, 2024, with the following stipulations. Halfway house, mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary, no contact with victim YL, and no contact with co-defendants, Daniel Rivera and Jason, can't read my own writing, Pangritek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Madam Chair, there's also the deceased victim's son, where there's a protective order. He's listed as
SG.
Okay, all right, so add that. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, Mr. Lomax, we were able to grant you parole today. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I will take Mr. Alvarado. Okay, thank you.
Torrington police arrest two men in connection with a fatal drug overdose that happened last summer. 45-year-old Michael Lomax told police that he bought heroin from a 39-year-old named Jason Pangaret and gave it to the female victim. Lomax told police he tried performing CPR before calling 911 because he wanted to avoid having any police involved. Lomax now charged with second-degree manslaughter.
And we're going to go through the unpacking. Thank you, Richard, for providing it that gives more of the details of how this case unfolded. But before we do that, I just want to vent a little bit. What the? Okay. I mean, really, what did we just see? Why would he get paroled? I know I sound like I'm just a broken record with this whining, but let's look at the facts again. He received just a little slap on the sentence, maximum sentence of 7 years. Now he wasn't sentenced until 2023, 1/31/2023. His full term date would be 2026, 1/17/2026. It's like, just for the sake of the mother of the victim, why don't you keep him in for a couple of years? If just that, then if you want to say not just that, what about just look at the parole hearing? You know what's bizarre about these things? We see this with the DUI, with the vehicular homicide all the time. It's like, naturally you could say, you know what, someone they can really mess up. They can get behind the wheel when they shouldn't. They can take a life, and it's terrible. And at least I can have some empathy for that person. But time and time again, we see I don't know how it's possible, but the ones who are sitting up for parole who took that life, they have no remorse. They just, it's all about them. They can't even fake it. And we see that in this case, he can't even fake it. There was nothing about It was me. Everything is bad for me. It's been terrible. It was my first. Even his opening remarks, there was nothing there. I'm sorry for the incident that happened in my case. Though that was his opening statement. The impact was for them to be upset at me when he describes when they ask him what was the impact on her mother, on her children. Oh, the impact was for them to be upset at me. Then he talks about how he's studying the 12 steps on his tablet, and they don't ask him one question to test him. They don't even say, really, what's step 1? I mean, we're used to this in Louisiana where they at least take the sobriety seriously. You know, there's the punishment part of incarceration, and then there's the rehabilitation part of incarceration. And they didn't check at all if there is rehabilitation. Who's going to say he doesn't go back out there? I mean, he had a serious addiction problem. There was nothing. It's like, well, you took some programs. Great. That's scary to me because you could have found out right away. Did you find out what his path was for success? There was nothing there. And then to add insult to injury, the poor mother talking, you could hear how broken she is. And he's making faces while she's talking. He's rolling his eyes. He is just showing complete what you'd expect, actually, from him. And then they just pour salt in the open wounds by paroling him. Make it make sense. And remember, it wasn't just that, again, these things can happen. He bought. Now, the dealer who we bought from actually died when he was out on bond from his own stuff. This is in the height of the fentanyl epidemic when people were still, and or I guess the beginning of it. I don't know if the height of it. And then but it's what he did when his wife was ODing. He did nothing to save her, and her children were there. So let's go over the facts of this case, and it will only just enrage you more if you ask me. I know it. So he admitted that he didn't tell police what he knew about the circumstances of his wife's overdose in 2018 when he delayed calling for help. Under the terms of the plea agreement to avoid trial in the case delayed by COVID-19 pandemic, the 49-year-old Lomax was sentenced Tuesday in Torrington Superior Court to 7 years in prison on reduced charges of risk of injury to a minor and distribution of narcotics. He'll receive credit for nearly 4 years. He has served since 2019, arrest on the warrant, initially charging him with manslaughter. So I guess, so this context is important because that means that I guess he only had 1 year left on his sentence. Still, I would have said that 1 year, go serve it. He should have served it. I am devastated and I am hurt and am willing to do whatever I have to do, Lomax said. Then Judge Chris Pelosi imposed the term, signaling what he called legal closure for the grieving relatives. His wife was 41 when Lomax bought 4 bags of heroin laced with fentanyl from Jason, who had purchased the drugs from Daniel Rivera Waterbury. He also was arrested but died July 31st, 2021 of an OD at age 41. And I don't know, again, if this was in prison, if he died from it, or if he had gotten bond. It's quite interesting. Lomax said that he used 2 of the 4 bags on his way home. The empty folds of the other 2 were later found in the couple's apartment. Lomax handed them to his wife, who became lightheaded, according to reports. She stopped breathing an hour later. According to her 15-year-old son, Lomax waited before. So now this is the son who is there. This is what he testified. I just zoomed in and now, okay. Before calmly calling 911, telling the boy she would be fine. Lomax told police who questioned him that he and his wife had smoked marijuana that day. Paramedics arrived to find that she was in cardiac arrest. Police noted that in a warrant of Lomax, that Lomax's main concern was his well-being and if he was going to be going to jail. He seemed calm, without remorse for delay of calling 911. An autopsy later determined that her death was a result of substance abuse and intoxication due to the combined effects of fentanyl, heroin, temazepam, trazodone, visceral congestion, and pulmonary edema. Via remote access to the courtroom, her mother said that Lomax should be sentenced to lockdown for eternity for lying to her face about what happened to her only child to save himself from blame. It's her only child. Her cousin blamed Lomax for taking advantage of a woman who wanted to be loved, accepted, and part of a family. Make sure you think of her every single day, cables to Lomax. Public defender Corey Mainville and Lomax had no previous criminal history and had not had any disciplinary issues since his arrest. He did not intend to harm his wife. It is interesting that he had no previous criminal history. I mean, he just went down that path, which so many have gone down, of getting hooked on painkillers and then escalating. And I think probably so, if not all of us, a large percentage of us know someone who passed from this garbage on the streets. Definitely know someone who knows someone. I've been to a few funerals myself. And it was good to see that the dealer got arrested, and it was good to see that they, but what is never shocking to see is how little remorse we see in these cases. What's wrong with making a terrible, and in this case it wasn't, he was more concerned for himself. It wasn't like he didn't call the police. He was more afraid for himself than calling. That's just hard to understand. Would have just taken a phone call. And now that poor boy and the poor mother. Anyways, he's now going to be out in the street. If he does get revoked, we'll cover his revocation hearing. Thank you, Richard, for the info. And with that, I'll let you go.